On May 12th, 2025, we are going to have a full moon in Scorpio at 22 degrees. And this is a lunation cycle that brings us back into the deep waters of the hidden and transformation. Now, aside from the classic Scorpio energies, this is also a moon about desire, emotional complexity, the hidden, choices, deceit, illusion, discernment, and standing empowered through fear. Now, when we talk more about the Decan that this full moon falls in and the ruling tarot card associated with it, which we will later on, my friends, and if you know me by now, you know I get deep into the Decans, you know I talk about the tarot cards associated with those Decans, and this full moon is rich with symbolism, and we're going to discuss how all of those significations and traits and potentials are very much going to be tied into what this full moon will represent. Now, we all know full moons reveal something that was once hidden. And when it comes to Scorpio energy, this something that has been hidden from us in the Scorpio part of our lives, our birth chart, wherever Scorpio is in your birth chart, and let me know where that is, this is where we're going to have a moment. We're going to have a moment of revelation, something that is going to feel like extremely revelatory, something maybe even more revelatory than another past full moon. Because when we deal with Scorpio energy, we are dealing with the realm of secrets. We're dealing with the realm of things that we can't see. But we're also dealing with intense, powerful shamanic transformation. Now, the Scorpio parts of our lives will be tested, I think. This is actually a really important message to send forth here today, guys. And we're going to talk more about the specifics of what I feel this full moon will bring us, obviously. But I do feel, because we are dealing with choices, this is kind of the word I want us all to focus on here for today. Choices. We are talking about illusions, decisions, not knowing what to do, a little bit of confusion, which is right on time for some Neptune and Aries flavors. But yes, my friends, there are moments in a lot of other zodiacal energies that can bring forth elements of illusion, elements of idealism, even making choices from a place of authenticity, right? Which is what Scorpio demands in the highest expression, or making choices from a place of desperateness or a place of lack, for example. Now, we're going to be revealed something, and we're going to need to meditate upon it. Okay. And I think that's really important to understand about lunation cycles, is that whether it's a new moon, which are all about birthings, and full moons, which are all about revealings, these are moments where we are supposed to contemplate. We are supposed to meditate upon. And that's something I say all the time. If you always hear me say, we got to meditate on this, it just means take a moment. Don't take so much action so fast. Relax. Okay, let's see what is being revealed to us. Or with a new moon, you get an insight that you want to put into the world. Like, well, what is this? You know, what are my intentions actually going to grow into? Time and patience will show you. But this is going to be a revealing we're going to need to meditate upon. And I think it's going to have a lot to do with choices. It's going to have a lot to do with something potentially of illusion, okay? And this is where we really have to get specific on where the Scorpio part of our life is, okay? And this is why I would love for you to share where the Scorpio part of your life is in the comments down below, because everyone loves talking in the comments, by the way, and sharing, their different stories and timelines on what they're experiencing. And with a full moon like this, I feel the comment section really needs to blow up a little bit in a good way, guys, because I think a lot of us need to get vulnerable and share things that we might be going through in that Scorpio part of our life, because I think someone in the comments might help somebody else out there. Okay. And I'm a true believer of the support that this community has been building, honestly. And I monitor the comments, by the way, as well. So I remove any negative folks. So please feel free to share, where the Scorpio part of your life is, because we are in a very powerful time in astrology, period, full stop. And some of the transits even in play for this full moon are really, really powerful. But we're dealing with a really powerful full moon and a revealing around needing to make some kind of a choice or needing to come to some deeper understanding of something very emotional and emotionally complex. So that's really the other kind of big key word I want to use aside from choices for this full moon. It's emotional complexity. Okay. And I'm going to get into all of this in a minute, guys, because the Decan that this falls in really paints the picture of why I'm saying a lot of these key words. Okay. There's a reason why I'm talking about choices. There's a reason why I'm talking about illusion and why I'm talking about potentially even deceit. And again, all of what is going to be revealed will be shamanic, will be transformative because Scorpio demands it. And Scorpio demands that we show up authentic and strong and empowered, and no matter how fearful or how dark something may be, and I'm not suggesting this is dark at all, I'm just saying when we deal with Scorpio, we're dealing with really difficult, at times hard truths, okay? And we're dealing with some of the more deeper undercurrents that that can manifest in life, okay? So this is happening in a really interesting time as well, with all the other transits going on, right? So Pluto is retrograde right now, and Mars is now past its post-shadow degree. So Mars, I believe, is like already pushing 10 degrees Leo at this point, if I'm not mistaken. And the moon at 22 degrees essentially is providing squares to both of them. Okay, by sign, because they're not close enough. 22 degrees where the moon is quite far away from where Pluto is in the early degrees, obviously, and where Mars is in the earlier degrees of Leo. But still, this moon is squaring them by sign, and that's really important for us to keep in mind, because in my opinion, transits still can share their energies, even if those are not directly aspected in a very strong way. And we just came off of a ridiculous end of April when we had that Pluto-Mars opposition, and how that very much was squaring the Uranus, okay? And that, for me, was also a very powerful moment for that opposition. And we're having that kind of happen again from this full moon's perspective. And the full moon is going opposite Uranus, okay? I think I just said Uranus before. Oh my God. So it literally just occurred to me that I said that wrong. But yeah, guys, I mean, Uranus opposite this full moon. I mean, Uranus is what, at 26, 27 degrees? The full moon's at 22 degrees. And this also means this full moon is opposite Algol, okay? And for those of you who don't know what Algol is, it is a fixed star. And it is associated, it is the demon star, not to scare anyone out there. But this is also what is getting a lot of astrologers interested on what could happen on the world stage. Because a lot of high-ranking political leaders, especially ones that are now in power in America, didn't have such a good experience when Mars was conjunct Algol last summer. Now, I'm not suggesting anything horrible will go down with any sort of violence or any sort of anything that could be violent. Maybe I'll just stick to that word without beating around the bush. But when it comes to Algol, and when it comes to especially a full moon like this, when it comes to the full moon squaring essentially both Pluto and Mars, and how Pluto and Mars are still essentially squaring Taurus by sign, we have to really keep our eyes open for this one, because this is still a very potent scorpionic energy that is affecting a lot of things, oppositions and by squares. Okay, so I know for all of the, the hardcore aspect astrology folk out there who like literally will take, well, the moon is not directly aspecting Pluto, so don't even talk about it. No, I think it's relevant. I think it's relevant to talk about because we have planetary positions that can still see each other. Okay, they can still see each other. And that's kind of how I view all of this. Now, what do I feel about the world with this full moon, my friends? I mean, I think this full moon will continue to wake people up. I think this full moon will allow people to see through some of the illusion and delusion continuously of what's been going on in the world. I think people are starting to have a lot of choices to make. I think people are now trying to weigh out their options in a lot of different spheres of life. I think a lot of people are coming to some really painful truths of their situations based upon some global structures that are now trying to reshape things. Okay. And this goes across the board for the entire world. There is a lot going on in this world. And this Scorpio moment, this revealing, is going to, I think, allow people to re-examine their reality. And I think that's an important way to phrase it, a re-examination of their reality. Things will be revealed. This is going to be like confusing for some people. This can be very emotionally complex, okay? Because people's belief systems are probably getting challenged left and right. You know, people who have especially voted for example, the current government in power in America. More and more people, by the way, are taking down their Trump flags in my neighborhood. So, I mean, these are people who were like the most hardcore right-wingers, and all of a sudden there's no more Trump flags. So what's going on with that? Okay, this is a real thing. So I think there's a lot of emotional complexity going on just generally with people who are starting to get fucked over in a big way with a lot of money issues. Okay, and I talked about this in the new moon and Taurus video, by the way, guys, as well, which we can, you know, revisit at another time with how that Decan very much painted a picture for poverty. Okay, with that 5 of Pentacles energy. So this is why the Decans are so important for lunar cycles. But this full moon for the world, I think, is going to still be very, very challenging for the world. Because, I mean, I don't think the world's getting any easier, okay? For our lives, it's different. We could be revealed things with this full moon that I think can provide a lot of insight on something that we are going through that is a little bit emotionally complex. But for the world, I think this is just going to be more revealings around decisions that were made, a lot of confusion and a lot of choices that are now being placed in front of people and needing to reconcile and needing to navigate this very complex, emotionally complex terrain that the world has now provided all of us. Okay. And I think this also, again, has a lot to do with relationships. Okay. And this is why I want to get into the Decan work in just one second, because this Decan very much is tied to an energy that includes relationships. Okay. So these choices, these illusions, this idealistic energy that this Scorpio full moon will present, I feel will be tied in to entanglements that involve our relationship with the world, our relationship to a particular thing, perhaps, or our relationship to people or a person. Okay. I don't want to get ahead of myself, because unless I'm doing an accurate reading with you, I can never know, exactly the relationship space this will be in. But that all being said, my friends, if I did not ramble on enough, before I continue, I would just like to say, if you are enjoying this video thus far, and if you are vibing with the channel, if you viewed any of my other videos before this one, I would love if you could consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, hitting that notification bell, leaving a comment. All of that stuff really helps the channel's growth, guys. And honestly, the last 5 months have been life-changing and unbelievable for this channel here. And I cannot believe how powerful the community is that we are building, how powerful the comment section is. And for me, building a community and having my insights be heard in the world has really been, like, honestly, my number one goal for a long time. Okay. I've wanted nothing more, honestly, in the last couple of years than to hopefully have a presence online that could share some of the deepest passions I have, which is astrology and many other things, but also to have a community that can flourish, and to really, for everyone to kind of come together. And I'm really seeing that. And so I really can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. So if you're new, I hope you can consider joining the community here and supporting the channel, supporting my work. And yeah, my friends, if there's anything else you would like to learn about me, especially if you're new, just check out the description box down below. You know, you can go to my website, you can read all about me, you can book yourself a 90-minute Zoom reading with me that's recorded, and you can keep it forever. I think my bookings are, I'm starting to get booked up actually a lot for June right now. And yeah, so yeah, go head over to my website and book yourself a reading if you would like to get in before June is sold out. And aside from that, my friends, yeah, I really don't have any other announcements right now. There's a lot of announcements that are going to come very soon down the line involving classes and courses I'm going to be teaching relatively soon. And also, yeah, I'm trying to figure out some other kind of membership type of portal, if you will, that could really be inclusive and awesome for all of us. So yeah, until further notice, those announcements will come at a later date. But yeah, my friends, that's all for those announcements. And yeah, let's get right back into what this full moon is going to be all about. All right, my friends, now let's dive deeper into what this full moon is going to be all about. This full moon is falling in the third decan of Scorpio. This decan is ruled by Venus, and the tarot card that rules this decan is the Seven of Cups. So, my friends, the decans are, for those of you who do not know what decans are, because I know a lot of you are still beginners out there or new to my channel, so I always like to explain really quickly what they are. They are subdivisions of the zodiac, and each one of these subdivisions has a ruling planet, and each one of those subdivisions also has a ruling tarot card associated with it. Now, this is where, in the beginning of the video, I was discussing how this full moon will very much most likely be about choices and illusion and dealing with desire, okay? Because what is Venus? Venus is desire, pleasure, harmony, okay? Emotional things. Venus can bring us very emotional things that usually are in the more positive space, you know? And for a Venus-ruled decan in Scorpio, a Mars-ruled sign, this does make this particular transit, this full moon, very emotionally complex, possibly even aggressive, okay? Because Mars rules Scorpio in ancient astrology. But Mars also, along with Pluto, who's the modern ruler of what is the modern ruler of Scorpio, we're dealing with elements of very sharp, aggressive transformation. This is why truth is so important for Scorpios, like dealing with the heart of truth and authenticity, because Scorpios don't have time for bullshit. Okay. And Venus, it's not that she doesn't like being in Scorpio, but Venus just doesn't have the opportunity to be in all of her Venusian harmonious, joyful nature while there. Okay. But there is a dimension of Venus that exists in Scorpio, in which this full moon will kind of have a flavor of. Okay, so when we deal with Venus in Scorpio, we could be dealing with intense desire, intense pleasure, and sometimes intense desire can turn into illusion. Okay, it can turn into temptation. Okay, so that's a key word here. So when we deal with a Venus-ruled decan, especially when we deal with a full moon, we are discussing and we are talking about a revealing of something that will be about choice, illusion, possible falsehood, deceit. Okay, so when we look at the world stage, like I just said earlier in my little rant about the world and like the American government again, that there are a lot of people waking up to deception. And I've been saying that for months, actually. There's been a lot of other lunar cycles, by the way, especially when we had the Pisces new moon, I believe, where deception was like, there was another decan that was all about deception. There was another tarot card that was all about deception. Now we're dealing with another decan here that kind of is in the same wheelhouse. Like there is an aspect of illusions and daydreams. There's an aspect of choices and deception. Okay, and this is a classical interpretation of what this decan is all about. If you look back into the ancient texts, the Venus ruled decan of the third decan of Scorpio very much is about, falsehoods, like being deceived, like not knowing what's real and what's not real, what choice to make or what choice shouldn't I make? Like, is this person lying to me, or where's the truth here? Like, why do I have so many options? I'm not even sure what's going on. Like, this is kind of the flavor, honestly, of this full moon. Okay. So I don't know how it's going to manifest necessarily for you, but when we deal with this particular placement, this particular area of the zodiac, this third decan of Scorpio, we are dealing with that intense emotion loaded behind it, and again, this powerful energy of transformation that can come from it. So this is also something we need to keep our eye on, that there is an element of transformation here. There is something that wants to be revealed that will be transformative and revelatory enough for us to go, oh my God, that's what this is. Or, oh my God, like, I think I may know the choice I need to make. So to be honest with you, this may be a full moon where the choice becomes clearer, okay, in some strange way. Or not some strange way, in a legitimate way, because this decan ruled again by the Seven of Cups. All right. So let's maybe switch gears for a minute there and talk about the Seven of Cups, because that's also where a lot of this symbolism comes in. That the Seven of Cups shows a person looking at floating cups, each containing something different, some beautiful, some dangerous. It's a card of possibilities. Okay. It's a card of choices. It's a card of also distraction and indecision, because sometimes you don't know what you want with the Seven of Cups. Okay. And because this card resides within a Venus ruled decan in the sign of Scorpio of all signs, we are dealing with a lot of emotional complexity. I believe we're dealing with a lack of harmony with this full moon, but also searching for what will bring me harmony, because whenever we're dealing with Venus, she's always on a mission for harmony. Okay. She's always on a mission to fulfill pleasure and desire. Okay. But when we deal with Scorpio, desire can get fuzzy, because what kind of desire are we talking about? Right? There's good desire, and then there's desires that can lead us to heroin addiction. There's desires that can lead us to a lot of things that aren't good. There's desire that can lead us to dating certain people that we know are not good for us, but for some reason we like the bad boy, don't we, ladies? So, it's like we need to understand the authenticity of what Scorpio is asking from us. And the house topic theme of life, don't forget, is exactly the energy and the part of your life that this stuff's going to show up for. Okay. So this is why it's so important to, of course, share in the comments where your Scorpio is. And, this is the beauty of astrology, is to kind of like dissect this symbolism and look in our birth chart and go, okay, well, where is this playing out? Like, Joe's talking about the Seven of Cups, and this is about choices and temptations and illusions and daydreams and like having a lot of choices, but like what's going on here? Fantasies versus reality. Like this is the territory we're playing in with this full moon. And on the world stage, I mean, listen to some of those key words I just said. I mean, you can look at one side of the political spectrum, okay, that bought into a brand. Okay. And that brand in America has sold them nothing but lies. Okay. And is now manifesting people in my neighborhood taking their flags down. Okay. And trust me, if you knew these people, you'd be like, where's your flag, dude? Like, so like there's something happening. Okay. There's something happening with a lot of folks out there who I think, with this full moon cycle, again, squaring Mars and Pluto, going opposite Uranus, and that algol, okay, moment, whatever algol's going to manifest in the world. But I think we are on the precipice of a lot of change, a lot of revelation, a lot of intense emotional complexity to start hitting the consciousness of so many people around the world, and like get hit with that dose of scorpionic energy. Okay. And this is like collective stuff that I'm referring to now. So this full moon, guys, I think will bring intense emotional revelations around things that you've desired or feared. Okay. So again, I think we also have to be real with Scorpio energy because fear is a very real thing. And Scorpio always wants us to go into the underworld, like in a shamanic journey of some kind, and to examine and investigate with a clear heart and mind whatever decisions or choices or illusions and desires start coming into your life and asking of you or sharing with you and putting in front of your face. This is also a time to face inner illusions, okay? Where you've been seeing what you've wanted to see, or rather what is in front of you. Have you been seeing what you want to see, or are you seeing something just because you want to see it, if that makes any sense? Like, is it real? Is it authentic? Or are you idealizing a situation or a relationship or something? Okay? Because we can't romanticize certain things anymore. And I think this part of our birth chart, wherever Scorpio is going to be the flavor of that. Just like with the right-wing political sphere in America, not to come back to that, but there's a romanticism, there's an idealism, an ideology, there's a romanticism behind what has been going on. Okay. And now you have people taking flags off their lawns. Okay. So I think it's like the spell is being broken little by little for a lot of people out there. Okay. And a lot of people are losing their jobs and losing their money. And like the one thing anyone should realize is don't fuck with people's money or else, so, and then of course, because we're dealing with a Venus ruled Decan, we have to talk about relationships. Okay. So the relationship sphere in the Scorpio part of your life. Okay. That's something that could be very much highlighted for this full moon, something revealed in the relationship landscape. So again, relationships tied to fantasy, emotional entanglement, idealization. Okay, we're dealing with any kind of relationship. Again, back to the world stage, the relationship between a supporter and the leader of that particular group. We're talking about any sort of relationship with anybody, with anything. Okay, but because we're dealing with Venus, we are dealing with this element of harmony. Okay, and harmony usually requires more than one thing. So you need two things to harmonize, okay, or more than two things to harmonize, okay? But so that's the whole thing with a Venus ruled Decan. And then last but not least, I think crossroads and trickery are kind of another massive energy that could be manifesting through this full moon. Okay? So some of us may feel like we're at a crossroads because there's a lot of decisions here, or we are having a hard time making a clear choice. Okay. And we're being revealed the fuzziness of what's in front of us. So that's why I kept telling you, with the 7 of Cups tarot card ruling this particular full moon, that, yeah, some of us may have a moment of clarity where we're like, oh, wow, I was confused. There was a lot of illusion. Like the spell is breaking now. I'm starting to see what I need to do. And some of us maybe even might be revealed more confusion. Like this might be the moment where you become more confused and choices become a little bit more difficult to make. So how to work with this full moon, guys? I have 3 things for you: reflection, discernment, and emotional honesty. Okay. So you really need to reflect on that part of your life. You have to reflect on what's going on in that part of your life. Okay. And be real. Ask yourself where you've been seduced by fantasy. Okay, ask yourself where you've been seduced by something that was not authentic and true to you. Or maybe it was true to you at some point, but now your perception and your values and just certain things that you are participating in now are not in alignment with that anymore. So what do you really want? That's really like one of the biggest things we always have to ask ourselves whenever we feel a little confused, or whenever something is changing, whenever we're in a crossroad, when we're reflecting, right? We need to ask ourselves, what do we really want? What do people who supported a political party that maybe no longer support that party anymore, what do they really want? What do they want? And discernment, also huge. Okay. And discernment's good for any time, honestly, but not every option that looks good for you is good for you, or not every option that looks good is good for you. That's what I meant to say. So using discernment and getting clear in a very authentic place, getting into a very authentic zone of self-understanding. That is how you can start navigating better choices from this full moon forth in the Scorpio part of your life. And again, guys, this may also tie in to the Aquarius, the Leo, and the Taurus part of your life, because those squares, okay, yes, loosely squared, but those squares by sign are still connected to the moon, transiting in Scorpio. So this can really be manifesting in 4 different areas of our life. And that's something I probably should have said earlier. But this is really important, because when we deal with choices, illusion, possible deception, when we're dealing with, again, fantasies versus reality, emotional and psychological overwhelm, because when we have too much going on, when we have too many choices or too many things being presented before us, or if there's too much information coming to us, and it can get a little overwhelming. Okay, so what do we do to discern what's true for us? What do we do to discern how we really feel? Okay, and how we want to move forward somewhere, and make those better choices. And then lastly, emotional honesty, which should really be one of the most important messages here today. How become emotionally honest with yourself, those around you, and you will find your answers. You will make a better choice. You will be able to avoid the deceit and deception of whatever is being presented or revealed to you. Okay? Scorpio demands depth and authenticity, guys. So you got to get honest with yourself. And because we're dealing with this Venus ruled Decan, and we're dealing with our relationship to relationships, or just relationships generally speaking, our relationship to something going on in that Scorpio part of our life, the quicker we become emotionally honest and put aside the bullshit and check our desires at the door, if we know maybe these desires are not really worth acting on, then I think you can get clearer as maybe some time goes on once this lunar cycle concludes. Okay? So if you're into astrology or spiritual work, this full moon is powerful for shadow work, guys, letting go of illusions and breaking patterns of emotional escapism. So those are, I think, some of my final words here. Okay. Track with this astrology, look it up on a program, look up the date, May 12th. Okay. Look at the transits on the chart. Just look at them with your eyes. All right. And meditate with them. This is where astrological magic can come into in hand, to be very handy, because we can look at this and we can examine these parts of our lives and already go, wow, okay, this is what I think this is about. Because if you track your life enough with the astrology, you'll sort of already know what maybe this could be about. Okay. And because we're dealing with letting go and making choices and, navigating with discernment and getting emotionally honest, we can learn how to look at the astrology at hand with our eyes at our, program or on astroseek.com, whatever. And we can ask these transits to provide us the insight that we need in order to grow from whatever is being revealed. And that's the whole thing, guys. Life is all about growth. Life is all about growth. And astrology just points us in an evolutionary, down an evolutionary road where growth can be fast-tracked, if we will, and dealt with a lot quicker. And for us to come to more places of acceptance within our life so we can get more emotionally honest and make those better decisions, make those better choices. Okay? So this full moon, guys, is very rich, and Scorpio full moons and new moons are no joke. So we have to take these moments as a blessing in a way, in my opinion, because any shamanic moment, and Scorpio is very shamanic, any shamanic moment we can get within the astrological space is an opportunity for us to radically awaken something new within ourselves. And those awakenings within ourselves, those shamanic transformations, always can provide us with lifelong wisdom. So that's something I want you to really remember as you're navigating this full moon cycle. Okay. Yeah, my friends, well, that's all I have for you for this video. I do hope you found this informative and enjoyable. Once again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, liking the video, all that fun stuff. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.